This moment from a press conference last week highlights one of the starkest potential ethical conflicts of the Trump administration.
I have a lawsuit that was doing very well, and when I became president, I said, I'm sort of suing myself. I don't know, how do you settle the lawsuit? I'll say, give me X dollars, right?
Look, the ethical issues here are so simple, you almost don't need an ethical expert to explain them. The person running the government is seeking money from the government. Let's break that down. He talked about a couple of legal cases that really have no parallel in American history. The first claim, generally known as the Russia investigation, is about whether the Trump campaign conspired with Russian intelligence operatives to interfere with the 2016 election. The second is about the classified documents case that includes...
So, for those of you that might not be familiar, since that was quite a bit ago, this was about the first administration, right? The first term between 2016 and 2020, right? And back then, there was a lot of assumption that Trump was a Russian plant. Now, that's still quite possible, but now it seems like perhaps maybe it was Israeli influence more so than Russian influence, or maybe even Russian influence got him in the first term and then Israeli influence got him for the second term. Either which way, that's the first legal case, right? The Mar-a-Lago is the fact that he had classified documents at his private resort, which is a big, big no-no. And granted, every president and every major head of the country has had some amount of classified documents at their home or at some sort of private residence of some sort, but it was an unprecedented number of these things going on, right? And the legal case, which we'll get into it, is between Trump and the United States government. And usually when you settle a lawsuit, it is because both parties agree that rather than let this go through the trial process, we'll just agree to exchange some sum of money and call it a day. In this case, the litigation process has been going on for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. He'll explain that in a second. Without any sort of resolution. But now that Trump is in the office again and thus able to control what, or at least influence what the state does, he can easily write himself a check for apparently $230 million, which is unprecedented levels of corruption.
Included a search of Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago. Trump filed a pair of legal claims for compensation filed with the Justice Department and the FBI. Trump's argument is that these cases that were pursued against him were essentially violations of his rights, that this was malicious, politically motivated.
Which is nuts, because he's been violating the rights of immigrants, of Democrats, of citizens, of just everybody under the sun, unilaterally dismantling our checks and balances systems, invading our cities with the National Guard, committing extrajudicial murders off the coasts of Venezuela and Colombia, using ICE as his own personal secret police forces, you name it. He's been violating and engaging in political motivated persecution. So, like, the fucking audacity, right?
Prosecution. So each of Trump's claims amount to about $150 million, a total of $230 million. When the Justice Department gets a claim like this, they have basically two options. They can fight it, which likely means going to court, or they can settle it. It's hard to imagine, given how Trump runs the Justice Department, that this Justice Department will fight him on these claims. There's another really important element to Trump talking about this, is that standing just feet away from the president is Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General. Before he got that job, Todd Blanche was President Trump's personal lawyer, and he represented him in the Mar-a-Lago case that is the subject of one of Trump's legal claims for compensation. Justice Department regulations require that a settlement of that size has to be approved by the Deputy Attorney General or the Associate Attorney General. That job is held by Stanley Woodward. Stan Woodward is a very important lawyer in Trump's inner circle. He has represented a number of Trump's senior advisors, including Dan Scavino, Peter Navarro, and even Kash Patel. Woodward also worked in the Mar-a-Lago documents case. So we asked the Justice Department, would Todd Blanche or Stan Woodward recuse themselves from making decisions involving these claims. They told us that Todd Blanche and Stan Woodward would follow the advice of career ethics officials. It is worth noting, however...
Bullshit! They're gonna follow the ethics officials, considering the things that they've been polling this entire time. Also, convenient that Trump's personal lawyers are in the top positions of the Justice Department, so that when things like this come up, they can just conveniently be a part of the actual cases themselves. Now, he brought up recusal. That's when, if you were the litigator, or if you were part of the case that was being brought to trial, and you had involvement in it, but now you're on the other side of it as a judge or prosecutor or defendant, whatever the case may be, you're supposed to recuse yourself, as in remove yourself from that trial, that litigation, so that there is no untoward behavior going on. And these two clowns are claiming that that's what they'll do, when there has been no evidence or example that this administration will even remotely follow ethics requirements. Because if so, we wouldn't be invading our own cities, we wouldn't be using a secret police force, and we certainly wouldn't be committing extrajudicial murders in international waters. He's using the Justice Department as his personal vendetta czars, and talk about a conflict of interest. Right. On top of the fact that they are his personal vendetta czars. Like, they were his personal vendetta czars to begin with, and now he's putting them in positions of power.
The Attorney General fired the top career ethics advisor at the department. What's in many
Right. So hold on, we stopped him right in the middle of talking about that. So let's hear this real quick.
Woodward would follow the advice of career ethics officials. It is worth noting, however, the Attorney General fired the top career ethics advisor at the department.
The Attorney General, who is the top of the Justice Department, and the two lackeys that were put in the next top two largest positions, fired the ethics
It's worth
commission
noting, however,
guy.
the Attorney General fired the
So, I mean, oh yeah, we'll take the advice of the ethics commissioner. By the way, that position is empty, so we're going to take our own advice, which is to give this man $230 million and our own personal cut of probably, 20 or 30%? Like, when we say that this is the most corrupt administration in American history, like, it isn't even close. This makes Watergate seem like a walk in the park, like wearing a tan suit. And Obama himself is an imperialist war criminal. But we can't even talk about his crimes because the man's so damn charismatic that we'd have to spend more time peeling away the layers of his charm just to get to the imperialism, right? This makes Bush did 9/11 look like a failure of negotiation with Afghanistan and Iraq, right? The level of corruption happening in the White House right now with this administration is unprecedented, and is exactly why there were so many checks and balances built into the Constitution in the first place. But the framers, I assume, never foresaw a situation in which all three branches were acting in collusion and every single department within the government working in collusion.
top career ethics advisor at the department. What's in many ways the most remarkable thing is there's nothing in the Justice Department regulations that require them to publicly announce when they've reached a major settlement. So it's not clear that we will even know if a deal is struck, when it's struck, or how much it's for.
Which is nuts too, because a settlement is between two parties, right? And the two parties agree based on a set of circumstances when or how much the money should be, right? So say you're in a lawsuit with me over you stole my family Bible. I could try and take it to trial and have you go to jail for larceny, but instead we settle out of court. Well, we settle for the family Bible's value, which is in my mind $300, right? And then the judge says, I don't see any reason why not. Agreed, right? Now, you have Trump, who sued the government. The government, which is now fully under Trump's control, whether or not he is of his own cognitive faculties is up for much lively debate, but that's not the point. The point is the government with the government is now debating on what the settlement could be. theoretically, he could settle this case for significantly more than $230 million. That was what the initial settlement was. That was what the initial lawsuit was. He could walk away with $230 billion. He could walk away with $2.3 trillion for all we know. And that's the point. We won't know until he starts spending money lavishly and makes sure that Times Magazine prints his face as the wealthiest person on earth or the first trillionaire or something. When the president of the United States has such overt control over the Department of Justice and is himself a factor in suing the government through the Department of Justice, the level of greed and corruption that could potentially stem from that is literally unprecedented. There is no so when we say unprecedented, we mean there is literally not a precedent for this. This has never happened. There has never been a situation in which a person who was suing the government became the president, took control over the Justice Department, and had carte blanche to write himself a blank check from our tax dollars. That has never happened before. So when the word unprecedented is used in this circumstance, it is truly unprecedented. It is breathtakingly, unmitigatingly unprecedented. So, this motherfucker makes Nixon look like a choir boy. Literally. Makes Reagan look like an angel. Makes, Andrew Jackson seem like he was just having a mild verbal confrontation with indigenous peoples. Like, Trump is single-handedly eroding our nation's democracy, and it's not even subtle. It's becoming less subtle, in fact, to the point where he's just about openly bragging about it.